So this morning I've got a stretch session with Omar and my buddy Junaid, who's got his first ever half marathon on Saturday. And something I think that's really important, and this is something that I have shared on the channel before, is like who's in your team. And I think that one of the most important things for a high performer is to treat themselves like an athlete. And I'm quite lucky. My background is track and field athletics. Definitely not field, just track. Okay. But something I learned when I was an athlete was that I would always have a team. I would always have a team of people that I would have to work on me. For example, physiotherapist, I'd have a nutritionist, I'd have a performance coach, have a strength conditioning coach. And part of the thing that I used to try and build around me was just all these people that I could turn to, or I could hire to help me with the things that I needed to perform. And I think engineering that is one of them. It's actually it's a skill. But the thing I think that you have to see is you have to see yourself like an athlete. You have to see yourself like an elite performer to enable to just be in that mindset. And one of the best people I've ever seen with this actually is my old business partner, Mark Bryant. So Mark had something called lymphatic. He had actually acute myeloid leukemia and an incurable cancer. And one of the things I observed about Mark was incredible in engineering a team of consultants, coaches, therapists, different modalities of healing and therapy and cancer treatments. And it was amazing to watch how he brought together all these different people to help him with his cancer. Really, really incredible. But one of the things I observed, like at its highest, he brought together, it was like his team. He treated himself like a high performance athlete. And what I've noticed is that so many, especially men, I'm going to be honest, it's more men than women, is like men will kind of have this attitude of, if it is to be, then it's up to me. They will just have sore back, sore knees. They'll have ineffective diets. They will go to the gym and do bullshit routines, and they don't really get any help and stuff like that, and they'll just will themselves through it and not get any results for years. Like, men are generally terrible at engineering a team around them that's going to help them perform. So one of the things I want you to think about as you're watching this is like, who's in your team? Who's in your team of people that you're hiring to help you perform at your best? Now, even I was thinking about this the other day, right? So I'm 37, and I heard I think it was Rangan Chatterjee with another podcast. They're talking about this idea that if you can run a 30-minute 5K in your 30s, it means by the time you're 75, you're probably not even going to have the capacity, or you're going to struggle to have the capacity to walk up a flight of stairs. And I was like, wow. Because they've seen the data now. They've got the data that those guys in their 30s who could run this kind of time for 5K in their 70s are really struggling. That's the kind of VO2 max they're going to have. And if you think about this, like, as a high performer, your job is to be able to train, to operate, to commit to the work that you're doing, not just in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, but to be able to enjoy the fruits of that all the way through. And I think so many men, what they do is, it's actually called the overactive warrior. So the overactive warrior pushes himself really hard, burns out, and to the point where he pushes himself so hard, burns out, he gives up, or doesn't do anything at all. And I think so many guys are so stop and start with fitness because they haven't done anything for ages. They go in, have had no therapy, no massage, they've had no stretching, they're really, really immobile. They go and push themselves really hard, and then they burn out or blow out. Or they've already got a full stress bucket. So their stress bucket's really full, and then they go in and sign up for a gym, a body transformation boot camp, a half marathon. And what it is that extra stress is that little bit that tips them over the edge. So they always end up ill, injured, burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed, all that sort of stuff. So as a high performer, what you've got to do is you've got to start seeing yourself as an elite athlete. And I think when you start to do that, you start to engineer your team differently. I've got stretch guy, I've got peptide therapist, I've got I got a psychotherapist, got a coach, got all these people that I work with that help me perform at my best. Think about that one for yourself. Just finished my session with Omar, and I actually feel tired now. I actually feel tired because all that bending, stretching, moving, it's like an hour of bracing, and it's one of those things, and if you've ever been for Thai massage, you'll know this. It's like, it's very pleasant, but it's a lot of pain. And I think, if you think about this, is like I got to around about 30, and I noticed that there was just an exponential shift in how tight I felt, like at my back, my hips, and like I've got an injury in my right hamstring. And I actually started to think about, and I'm doing this more now, and I mean, if you're watching this and you're a leader, you probably know this, is that you want to look the part, you want to feel good, you want to be able to do all the activities with your kids, and it's actually mobility and strength are probably one of the most foundational things to feel good as you age, because I think what happens is it's tightness that actually inhibits most people's ability to continuously do exercise. Because what actually happens is you're so tight that if you do anything where you exert past a certain amount of max force, you injure yourself really easily. So one of the things I've really invested in over the last couple of years is things that soften me. Breath work. I'll take you to do a session with Constance, like she's amazing, and it's like breath work, mobility, stretching, like yoga. All these things are things that I know that I'm going to double down on over the next couple of years to make myself softer. And the other side of this, and this is something I was talking to Omar with, is that most people are tight not because they do a lack of yoga mobility, is because most of it is emotional pain that gets harboured in the body. And I mentioned earlier in the video about my buddy Mark, my old business partner, and when he was diagnosed with his leukemia, he went and saw a myriad of people, a myriad of different experts and holistic therapists, and the common theme he said amongst all of them was that disease is emotion that gets stuck in the body. And I'll say that again because I think it's so important. Disease is emotion that gets stuck in the body. What we get, we create disease because there is emotions that get trapped in the body and they don't get processed or let go or breathe. We don't breathe them out. And I noticed this, and like actually even with my shamanic experience last year, I went there and I was like 9 out of 10 stiff. I couldn't touch my toes. I had real bad pain in my glute, my lower back, and my belly. Anyway, after doing a very kind of quite aggressive purge experience, the following morning I woke up and touched my toes, no pain. And without no stretching, without doing anything, then the only thing that had changed is I'd processed a load of emotions that I was harbouring in my belly, in my guts. And I really worked through those in my journey. Now, explain this to me. How can that happen? Because I went to probably about 4 or 5 chiropractors, physios to try and solve this, and not one of them talked about emotions. Not one of them talked about emotions. None of them asked about my emotional health. They just all used these fancy guns and these massage techniques and stretching techniques. None of it worked. None of it. What was wrong is that I didn't create a space in my week. I didn't have the structural discipline to put in things where I could process emotional pain, emotional struggle and stress and trauma. So that's why even on the men's group I run, every single month we have a breathwork session with James Tremaine, because James is an amazing coach who works with the breath, and I believe it is imperative. It's imperative for a leader to do this, because if you think about it, you're leading people all the way through the day. You've got so much going on. You've got so many things that you can't show to the world, like anger, sometimes rage. You bottle all that up, and then what happens is you stiffen up and die after your career. And I've seen this so many times. I've seen this so many times when I've worked with older people, especially when my personal training days, is they are so broken after their careers. So I'm offering a different mindset by treating yourself like an athlete, by putting all these people in who you can leverage and use and access whilst you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s and onwards, it means that when you do finish your career, you're not broken. And yeah, that's, it's a philosophy of mine, and I stand by that. I think I've actually become more diligent over the last, say, 3 years, especially moving to Dubai. That's one of the best things about Dubai, is there's so many complementary therapies here. Poppy and I, even the other day, we went to the face gym and they were massaging my jaw and my face, and she said how tight my jaw was because I was harbouring so much what's the word for it, resistance by clenching my teeth. And she just, like, it was a Thai lady, and she looked at me and she said, yeah, you've got a really tight jaw. So worth considering who is in your team, and treat yourself like an athlete. Cheers for watching, folks.